What it do, chooms? Welcome back to SPACEJB. I'm your blue-eyed host, Space, aka Space Bartmoss. In the futuristic universe of Cyberpunk 2077, there are powerful groups like the NUSA, Arasaka, Maelstrom, or even Netwatch that strive to take over Night City, and for others, they target the globe as their domain to be ruled over. One entity that is working towards this chance at taking over Night City and potentially the globe in the Cyberpunk universe, ever watching, secretly injecting themselves into very important events and people in the 2077 RPG, is led by none other than the mysterious Mr. Blue Eyes. With more info on the very anticipated Phantom Liberty DLC being slotted to have its reveal come next month, I didn't want to waste too much time and not talk about a certain blue-eyed character and a group of blue-eyed people. In my opinion, it's time to pull this mysterious being and his people from out of the shadows to shine a bit of light on who they are and what they could want. And in this video, I will break down the origins of Mr. Blue Eyes, as well as explore one of my wild space theories on what these sneaky petes could potentially be after in the upcoming Cyberpunk projects. We get our first glimpse at the character Mr. Blue Eyes from the E3 trailer that was released back in 2018. Though his blue eyes aren't on display, just for the brief moment he is on screen, he can definitely be seen as a potentially dangerous or very powerful figure. There isn't much information given to us directly on our mysterious friend from the lore, so most of this information is puzzled together by events, shards, and missions from the 2077 RPG, as well as other parts of the lore that I feel can connect to Mr. B. With that being said, let's keep in mind that there aren't any chronological dates given to us for his backstory, being mysterious and whatnot. But to help us stay on course for this video, I will break it down into different sections, starting off with talking about rogue AIs after the data crash. After the data crash that unleashed hell into the net, Netwatch started a secret development project we all know as the Black Wall. Netwatch had no chance of doing this on their own and eventually would garner aid from the Transcendentals as well as the Ghost, both of these groups being forms of rogue AIs. If you've played the RPG, thanks to Alt Cunningham, we know a bit about the Ghost, yet the Transcendentals are just as important. These AIs are the result of the Ihara Grub transformation algorithm, or the IGTA. I talk more about the IGTA in my Raish Bartmoss video, which if you're new to the channel, I shamelessly recommend that you go check that out after this. For those who haven't seen that video, the IGTA simply put was the algorithm set to transform the way the net operated and how it looked. Out of this came the creation of a certain artificial intelligence known as the Transcendental Sentience AI. And this is where we get the term transcendental from. Now, ever since this secret project was completed, rumors were spreading like wildfire that not only did the AI help build the wall, but they also wanted to have the wall built so that they could operate in secret away from the prying eyes of Netwatch. Over the next 3 decades, a lot would transpire in regards to these AIs, which from now on I'm gonna refer to as rogues. Some of these rogues were looking and probing the wall for cracks to escape and possibly wreak havoc on the new net. There were talks about one who managed to make it from the other side of the wall to eventually run a failing taxi company, then turning it into the most prestigious and trusted transportation service in Night City. There were some naughty eggs out there looking to cause a bit of havoc, like the Voodoo Boys, Maelstrom, and even Night Corp that were purposefully and kind of illegally tampering with rogues for their own reasons, sparking urban legends that blue-eyed people, or these rogues, had been hijacking human bodies and were manipulating the top levels of the financial industry as well as politics. The 2 missions associated with them is where we get our first glimpse at Mr. B and find out that they are way more powerful than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter what you tell him. It doesn't matter what you think of doing or do. You can't change anything.
What?
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you want. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
For those who don't know about the pyrolysis, here's a brief breakdown. They both met while studying law after they independently received scholarships to attend Asukaga Berkeley University, and these weren't cheap, valued at about 2.7 mil apiece, given to them by none other than Night Corp. I'll talk more about them later on in this video. Not only do we find out that Jefferson's path to mayor has been practically orchestrated by a secret entity from behind the scenes, we also find out that it is thanks to this entity that him and his wife are being subjected to brainwashing experiments that are being carried out by their security detail.
Security looking at this? Say anything?
This is where things get a little weird.
They claim there's no sign of a break-in or of a shot being fired.
Security cams didn't record anything. Guard outside didn't see or hear anything.
They suggested Jeff must have had a bad dream.
Convenient answer.
Liz gave security the day off so I could call you in.
This, security outfit, SSI. Who are they?
Been on the market the last 15 years. They have clients across the city. If memory serves, they came recommended. An acquaintance. You think SSI might be behind this?
Well, that or someone hiding behind SSI. Anyone come to mind readily?
It was Blue Eyes all along. You know what I'm talking about. Like in WandaVision?
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
No? I can't be the only one that watched WandaVision. Get cultured, people! SSI, or Security Services Inc., is damn near as mysterious as the man that we are talking about. Only being 15 years old at this point and not having too many deets on them fits perfectly when talking about rogues that could be secretly taking over the world. Through some very careful digging into messages left on the computers in the Perales' Charter Hill apartment during the Dream On mission, V starts to uncover what is going on and barely about who is potentially pulling the strings. This only intensifies when V finds a secret room unbeknownst to the Perales that was set up in their home by the SSI, labeled as Sector 0.
Why is this door concealed?
Where? There's no door here.
Scanner's showing something different.
Wait, you mean here?
Right here, it's closed. Previous owners leftover, maybe?
No. Open it. Somehow, please. Shit. Maybe it's worth checking their office
We're
downstairs.
safe putting your security at the top of our list of suspects.
They violated our privacy. Sons of bitches! Under my own roof!
Wonder how long they've been keeping this from you.
Too long. This ends
Talking to
now.
yourself
I'm not
again?
letting any more of those freaks
More
set
and
foot.
more. Ever since this terrorist
head.
started something wrong?
Don't worry about me. Do what you have to do.
Uncovering that this SSI was on some okie doke maneuvers, masquerading as the face for a mysterious group that was carefully and violently carving out the way to ensure that Jefferson would become Night City's next mayor. Though both of them were getting brainwashed, we're just going to talk about Jefferson in particular. They were taking over his mind, changing his mannerisms, and erasing his memory to craft the ideal candidate. The team in charge of keeping watch was comprised of Chief of Security Wallace, who would oversee 3 separate teams: Team Blue, Team Orange, and Team Black. Orange team were the grunts of the 3, being the team that the Perales saw mostly as they were the ones really acting as their security detail, being only on a need-to-know basis where they didn't even have permission to talk to the Blue or Black team members. The Black and Blue team were the ones actually executing the psychological manipulation on Jefferson, as they called him Target Alpha. To carry this out, they were using neuroplasticity experiments.
My optics don't see any manufacturer info or detect any mods. They don't mass produce trucks like those. What are they doing? What are they hiding?
Earjacking. Huh. Could be the security firm or government. Media scouting for dirt on the Peraleses.
Piersted, we're in.
Couldn't ask the NCPD for better records than this.
Pictures, medical records, vulnerability to neuroplasticity. Some kind of database. Brain scans, the paralysis, biological casts, neuroplasticity.
Fuck. What about that? The blue shit.
Fresh neural links. They're not spying on them, Johnny. They're fucking with their heads.
Mean to say someone's literally controlling our upstanding politicians' minds?
Mm-hmm. Red blots are memory residue in the hippocampus region. See how they're bleeding into the blue?
So what are we looking at?
They're planting new memories in their heads, modifying their personalities. This is big shit, Johnny.
Fuck me.
Got other guinea pigs besides the paralysis, too.
Quick, download the data. Whoever comes looking for it, that's your suspect.
Shit. They're wiping the data. We've been made. Now they know someone's been in their database.
Wonder if they also know who.
We never get a chance to see the blue team agents, but depending on how you approach after chasing the truck and how fast you are, could potentially catch 2 of the black team agents and zero them before they aboard a cloaked AV. If you succeed at this, you might find an encrypted note on one of the bodies of the black team agents. This note states that the mission has been suspended effective immediately due to V finding Sector 0, or that secret room that was in the paralysis apartment. And that Control, or who I'm guessing is truly in charge behind the scenes, will activate termination protocols on the agents if they are caught or put to sleep by V. Thanks to a side mission later on in the game that involves Sandra Dorset, which is the lady from the first rescue mission, you can crack a data shard that she lost after being kidnapped. On this data shard, it had some interesting information connecting the SSI and these gaslighting experiments that were happening on Jefferson and Elizabeth to Night Corp. And that brings me to my third point, and how they're involved with Mr. Blue Eyes, or better yet, how Mr. Blue Eyes is involved with them. I'm not gonna try to explain Night Corp's entire history in this video, but more so talk about their secretive work with AIs. Most of their work is known to be done in the shadows of Night City. One of this company's biggest secrets comes from the lore where it talks about them experimenting with an AI that not only could take over Night Corp workers, but could potentially take over anybody it wanted. Later in the game, Sandra Dorset, who is the lady that you rescued from the first mission of the game, will reach out to V asking them to help her recover a data shard that she lost during the time that she was taken. If by chance you decide to crack the data shard before giving it back to Sandra, upon this shard you will find more information that gives us a bit more context to the experiment that Night Corp was running with an AI. This experiment, codenamed Operation Carpe Noctem, talked about an artificial intelligence named CN-07 that Night Corp was running some tests with. And these test results were said to have been very successful. The artificial intelligence CN-07 had proven itself capable of bypassing commercial, device-specific, and macro security systems accessible to Night Corp employees at the lowest level. Being able to bypass all these different levels of personal security and install itself invading a host without them ever even knowing. And this is where things are just getting heated up, because using this artificial intelligence, they were able to actually run another experiment on another subject, where this subject's demeanor was said to have been mild-mannered and very chill. Through subliminal messaging was able to be turned aggressive to the point where they ended up strangling a coworker to death and then jumping out of a 16th story window.
I don't need any more didactic lectures from Chuck. Well, that's not helping. Jesus!
And if you stick around and visit Gary the Prophet enough, you will find out about a secret meeting that's happening between some Maelstroms and some Corpos, where this term Carpe Noctem comes up again, which it means seize the night.
Can't believe it. Some actual conspiracy shit going down right now.
What says the Wolf Father to the Moon Mother as she descends to Earth?
I have protected the realm of man and shadow, but today they are protected by our children, whose name is patricide.
In the age of his failure, he became lost in the forest.
Lilith has concealed the 10th circle from the ancestors' eyes.
Carpe noctem lamia.
Digit diem execrari.
During this meeting, they also mentioned the name Lilith, which through the lore is said to be a rogue AI that the Maelstrom had summoned through a ritual. Lilith in mythology, depending on which lore that you're looking at, can be interpreted as the first wife of Adam. Yet, if we use the Nordic mythology that it seems the Maelstrom is more akin to, then Lilith comes off as either the embodiment of lust or a child-eating witch. Now during this meeting, when they say carpe noctem, it's also followed by another term, lamia, which in Latin means vampires. So what they said was, seize the night, vampires. In regards to the first few lines where they mention the children whose name is patricide, which by definition means the killing of one's father, I took this in the context of when Richard Knight was building Night City, his vision for this place was to be of a non-violent place for people to come spend money. But he himself became victim to mob violence after a few threats, and then over the next few decades, this place would become known as one of the most violent places to live. And I know I'm reaching for straws here on a wild space theory when I say this, yet what I'm getting at is that Richard Knight was literally killed by the citizens or children of his own city, and then over the next few decades would still have his vision being slaughtered by the same people. In the lore of 2077, there is a lot of references to certain religious aspects and mythological creatures. Going back to the term of vampires, what if Maelstrom and Night Corp are working together not to summon blood-sucking vampires, but more of a vampiric style AI, which is capable of invading its host, draining it of its life force or memories, able to take control of it and force it to do its bidding, very similar to CN-07, which I firmly think is Mr. Blue Eyes just taking human form.
Somehow I doubt it's people who are behind this.
So aliens?
Very funny. You're too young to remember this, but not so long ago, people talked about rogue AIs prowling cyberspace.
So, not aliens.
Doesn't matter who or what. Our guys outmatched. They can do whatever they want.
And I know that sounds crazy, yet in my theory, no matter if Night Corp discovered or created the AI known as CN-07, and after its awareness could have potentially worked out a deal with it to where giving it access to the real world and using its ability to take over anybody it deems suitable to follow its political protocol in hopes of re-establishing Night Corp as a superpower once again. Coming from the lore, there are rumors that state that some citizens would love to see this happen, as well as a Reddit post by Inkdagger that was talking about the potential return of Richard Knight. It's just more fuel to the fire of my wild space theories that Mr. Blue Eyes is an artificial intelligence created and tested by Night Corp using its ability of subliminal conditioning and gaslighting to take over political figures in hopes of not just taking over the political and corporate world, but also being able to take over Night City entirely. And once again, I get to leave it up to you, my blue-eyed cybernauts. Do y'all think Mr. Blue Eyes is an artificial intelligence created by Night Corp, or is space way off his rocker and just out of my mind? Most likely both, but I'd love to hear from you on what y'all think in the comments below. And if you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much for your support, because it really means a lot. And don't forget to mind control that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of my Cyberpunk videos. I appreciate you all, always sending your positivity and high vibrations. Make sure that you're blasting those gonks in Night City to alleviate the stress as best as possible. And until my next video, let's take off. I'm out. Peace.